For over a century, Mercedes-Benz wasn't just a car brand. It was the benchmark. Engineered like no other car. Built with obsessive precision. Driven by presidents, royalty, CEOs, and champions. When Mercedes entered a segment, competitors didn't ask if they could catch up. They asked how long it would take. And yet, today, something unthinkable is happening. Mercedes is cutting prices. Profits are collapsing. China, once its strongest market, is turning hostile. And loyal customers are asking a question that would have been heresy just a decade ago. What happened to Mercedes-Benz? This is not the story of a company going bankrupt. This is the story of something more dangerous. The slow erosion of trust. The loss of an identity. And a legendary brand fighting to survive a world it no longer fully understands. Chapter 1. When Mercedes meant perfection for most of the 20th century, Mercedes-Benz represented the peak of automotive engineering. Not speed, not flash, but authority. A Mercedes didn't need to scream. It whispered confidence. Doors closed with a vault-like thud. Engines ran for 500,000 kilometers. Taxis in Europe crossed cities for decades without complaint. Mercedes wasn't chasing trends. It was setting standards. BMW built sporty cars. Audi built modern designs. Mercedes built machines meant to outlast governments. This reputation wasn't marketing. It was earned through engineering discipline, conservative decision-making, and a refusal to cut corners. If a feature wasn't perfect, it didn't ship. If a material didn't last 20 years, it didn't belong. Chapter 2. The luxury strategy that changed everything, on 2022 to 2025. In the early 2000s, Mercedes faced a brutal reality. The car industry was changing faster than ever. Electrification was expensive. Software was becoming central. Margins were shrinking. Under CEO Ola Källenius, Mercedes made a bold and risky decision. Instead of chasing volume, Mercedes would chase luxury margins. The company split its lineup into 3 categories: top-end luxury, core luxury, entry luxury. The plan was simple: sell fewer cars, make more money on each one. Prices went up, features became optional. Entry-level models quietly lost attention. On paper, it looked smart. Luxury brands survive on exclusivity. But Mercedes misunderstood something fundamental. Its customer base wasn't built only on millionaires, it was built on trust. Chapter 3. China from growth engine to breaking point. For nearly 2 decades, China was not just a market for Mercedes-Benz. It was the market. China delivered a scale that Europe never could. It delivered growth when the West stagnated. It delivered young, status-hungry buyers who viewed the 3-pointed star as the ultimate symbol of arrival. In China, electric vehicles evolved into software-defined machines. Cars became rolling smartphones. Over-the-air updates were frequent and seamless. Infotainment systems felt intuitive, fast, and deeply integrated into daily digital life. AI voice assistants actually worked. Navigation was predictive. Entertainment was native, not bolted on. Chapter 4. The software problem. Nobody talks about Mercedes-Benz was built on hardware excellence. For generations, the company mastered the art of mechanical perfection. Engines that ran forever, suspensions that floated yet controlled, doors that closed with vault-like authority. This was the DNA of the brand. It's what made Mercedes Mercedes. But the modern car is no longer a machine first. It is a computer on wheels. And this is where Mercedes stumbled. New models arrived packed with digital ambition. Massive curved displays, touch-sensitive controls, advanced driver assistance systems. On spec sheets, they looked futuristic. In the showrooms, they were impressed. On the road, they are often disappointed. Owners reported screens freezing mid-drive, infotainment systems rebooting randomly, sensors malfunctioning in rain or traffic, driver assist features triggering false warnings or shutting down entirely. These weren't isolated glitches. They were patterns. And for a luxury brand, glitches are unforgivable. A Mercedes is supposed to remove friction from life. It's supposed to calm the driver, not demand troubleshooting. But instead of serenity, some owners found anxiety. Instead of confidence, uncertainty. The deeper problem was structural. Mercedes attempted to build an in-house software ecosystem while competing against companies that were born digital. Tesla, Chinese EV startups, tech-first manufacturers with Silicon Valley DNA. Chapter 5. Quality control. The unthinkable decline. Perhaps the most painful blow to Mercedes-Benz wasn't technological at all. It was emotional. For decades, Mercedes owners didn't just like their cars, they trusted them. Buying a Mercedes meant believing that no matter what changed in the industry, this brand would never compromise on build quality. And then, slowly, that belief began to crack. Longtime owners started noticing things they never expected to notice in a Mercedes. The interior didn't feel solid anymore. Door panels flexed, center consoles creaked. Glossy plastics replaced thick leather and metal accents. Buttons felt lighter. Switchgear lacked resistance. Cars that cost more than ever somehow felt cheaper than models built 20 years earlier. This wasn't nostalgia clouding judgment. Independent quality surveys, owner forums, and dealership feedback all pointed in the same direction. Something fundamental had changed. The issue went deeper than materials. Modern Mercedes vehicles became heavily dependent on complex electronics. Large touchscreens, digital dashboards, sensors, and advanced driver assistance systems were added at an aggressive pace. But many of these systems proved unreliable. Owners reported frozen displays, malfunctioning sensors, warning lights appearing without cause, and driver assist features disabling themselves mid-drive. These issues weren't rare edge cases. They became common talking points. Then came the recalls. Nearly 1 million vehicles were recalled due to potential braking system corrosion, affecting models spanning more than a decade. Electrical issues crossed multiple model years. Problems once associated with budget brands were now being linked to Mercedes-Benz. Headlines that the company once dismissed were now unavoidable. Chapter 6. The Cost of Reinvention. Next-Level Performance. Mercedes-Benz did not ignore the crisis surrounding it. Instead, it responded with one of the most aggressive internal restructurings in its modern history. The program was called Next Level Performance, and its name alone revealed the urgency behind it. This wasn't about optimization or fine-tuning. This was survival mode. European manufacturing plants were operating far below capacity, some at barely over half of what they were designed for. Fixed costs remained high while demand softened, especially in key markets. Profit margins collapsed. Operating income fell sharply. Something had to give. The solution was brutal. Tens of thousands of jobs were placed on the line worldwide. Cost-cutting targets stretched into the billions of euros. Production was streamlined. Supply chains were squeezed. Every department was pushed to justify its existence. This wasn't a company trimming excess. This was a company trying to stop itself from sinking under its own weight. At the same time, Mercedes was being forced to spend more than ever before. Electrification is not cheap. Battery development, new EV platforms, charging partnerships, software systems, and regulatory compliance demanded enormous investment. Chapter 7. The Weight of History. Mercedes-Benz is not just a car company. It is a historical institution, And with that history comes both pride and burden. The brand traces its origins to the invention of the automobile itself, positioning Mercedes as one of the architects of modern mobility. But history is never one-dimensional. During World War II, Daimler-Benz relied heavily on forced labor, including tens of thousands of concentration camp prisoners, to maintain production. This dark chapter is acknowledged today, but it remains an inescapable part of the company's legacy. Mercedes rebuilt itself after the war, becoming a symbol of German recovery, discipline, and engineering excellence. That transformation was extraordinary, but history leaves marks. Decades later, Mercedes made another decision that would haunt it for years: the merger with Chrysler in 1998. Marketed as a merger of equals, it quickly became one of the most infamous corporate failures in automotive history. Cultural clashes, mismanagement, and quality compromises followed. Billions were lost. Mercedes's reputation for bulletproof reliability took a hit that lasted years. The company eventually recovered, but not without cost. Each crisis forced compromises. Each recovery required rebuilding trust. Over time, layers of unresolved pressure accumulated beneath the surface. Chapter 8. Mercedes is not dying, but it is changing forever. Despite everything, this is not the end of Mercedes-Benz. The company still employs some of the finest engineers in the automotive world. It still produces iconic vehicles. It still commands global recognition that most brands can only dream of. But the era of unquestioned dominance is over. Mercedes is no longer untouchable. It faces competitors that move faster, think digitally, and build vehicles as software platforms first and machines second. The three-pointed star still shines, but its light no longer dominates the road by default. It has to earn attention again, earn trust again, earn loyalty again. What happens next will define Mercedes for the next generation. This is not a collapse. It is a transformation. Painful, uncertain, irreversible. And for the first time in decades, Mercedes-Benz must prove itself all over again. If you believe Mercedes can reclaim its throne, hit like. If you think this is the beginning of a permanent shift in the luxury car world, comment below. And if you want more deep dive documentaries like this, subscribe, because legends don't disappear quietly. They either evolve or become history.